Right, well, here we go. So, a very punchy week so far in terms of recovery from this move. That's like almost a 90% retracement. So, like 40 points off the all time highs. Now, so it is as a bit of a reassessment as far as where to from from here, because the trend is broken. It's finding its feet for a new one, right? This has happened before, right, back here, okay, where the trend was broken and it found its feet. But what it did here, it is so far not dissimilar, right? Where it was a deep retracement, bigger than the 78, just like here, right? Which is obviously bigger than the 78 retracement. So at the moment, this and that, it's looking not dissimilar, which makes me think, look, we could be in for another leg to retest this, a bit of a range, bit of a chop before we work out where to go. But the short version is we're in a state of flux and it's a reassessment. So for me, I've stopped out of most of my shorts and I'm sitting back waiting to see the next move. Now there's a few things to me that are just very weird and contradictory in the markets at the moment. All right, when we look at the old Dr. Copper, right, this is what we're seeing. A big run up. Is this a double top? Is it going to shoot higher? Is it going to retrace? Don't know, right? But we're at some pretty interesting levels. This really is like an all-time high for copper. So to me, I suspect it's going to pull back. That's copper, right? Copper's worth something. It's got an end use, right? Then we look at the other end of the spectrum. Instead of copper that's been around for, tens of thousands of years, right? Let's look at Bitcoin. Right? It's done the same thing. All-time highs. It's had a shoot up. Is it going to be a double top or is it going to keep going? I just find it very strange that something like copper that's been around for, tens of thousands of years, well, longer, right? But in the use by the human race for tens of thousands of years, has got a solid intrinsic value and intrinsic use, has basically got the same price action going on as something that has got an intrinsic value of zero, right? In Bitcoin, it does have an intrinsic value of zero. The only reason it's worth something is because someone else will buy it because they think someone else will buy it. That's all, right? There is no end use for it. It's not like a currency in that there is a government backing it and supporting it. So, the US dollar, right? If the US dollar collapses, the US government, well, they've got debt, right, that they will honour and pay back, and they've got an economy that's behind it that generates those dollars. They will pay people, the government employees in those, US dollars, and that is backed by their real economy. Gold, it has an end use. It has an interest rate curve, right, that goes out. You can do gold swaps that have got an interest rate attached to them. Bitcoin has none of those things, so it is worth zero. Intrinsically, it is only worth something because the people who pay for it think someone else will pay more for it. It's doing the same thing as copper. Weird. Then we look at like one of the oldest markets known to mankind after copper, right? which is the treasuries, and it's going the other way. Right? Now, so that's the treasuries. Right? This is copper, right? This is Bitcoin. Right? You know, I just find it's just amusing, like what's going on, right? I've got no idea really what it is saying, apart from these are some contradictory things. This is saying La La Land is at all-time highs. La La Land, right? Copper is saying that the real demand for copper as an input to the economy is at all-time highs. That I can understand, but it is at all-time highs, and it's a sign of the strength of the economy and a sign of a supply chain problem in the economy, because there's no shortage of copper on the face of the earth. Unlike Bitcoin, right? Where apparently there's a shortage. Then when you look at the bonds, there's no shortage of bonds. It's like copper, right? Because the US government just keeps rolling them out, right? But when I look at it, you know, this pattern, right, has been, it's part of a larger pattern, which to me totally looks like it's rolling over, right? Where it's basically gone up, it looks like it's rolling over, it's having a bounce, and to me, these things look like it's all but game over, right? And when it goes through this, there's a lot of fresh air below there. And we've seen this kind of pattern in gold, in copper, and in other markets where you have a little bit of work around a level, then you shoot up to a high, comes back to a support, you get a lower high, comes back to support. It might have another one, right? But it is rolling over, bouncing lower. So that means higher yields. So what is that going to spell for the economy? Those higher yields, it does correspond to, or correlate to me, to a lower, copper price, because the interest rates raising reflects, really the economy attempting to be slowed down, or the risk being repriced. So there is some semblance of rationale in that. But then with Bitcoin, it is just lunacy. Now the clanger to me is, where do the equity markets fit in these contradictory things of rates about to go higher, or actually going higher, a core ingredient of the economy at all-time highs, and if it collapses, well, that's obviously a sign of the economy going south. And then when we look at the equity markets, where do they sit in all of this? And to me, they're looking a little bit like Bitcoin and copper, where they've had a big run up. We just had this big U shape here. So what is it with Bitcoin, copper, the bonds, and the equity markets? They've all got this price action, these patterns in common. And I guess the important thing is, where are they going to end? Right? I don't know, because I don't have a crystal ball, but all I can say is it is very strange that we've got things like Bitcoin, which is useless. Well, not useless, it's got a function, but there's no intrinsic value, right? You could be trading like conch shells, right? It's like, it's doing that. Is it going to be shooting up to all-time highs? Copper, right. Is copper going to be shooting to all-time highs? To me, I don't think so, because it's been around for so long. I think this is going to look more like a double top to me. I reckon it's going to do that. So I think copper is on the way down. Right? I think the 10-year yields, the 10-year yields are on the way up, as in the bonds are going higher. I think, Bitcoin could go anywhere, but to me, it really looks like it really does look like it could be a double top there. And the equity markets, I think, same thing. It's hard to say, right? A little bit of SO action. I guess that's the telling thing, but it is very bizarre. We've got like copper, Bitcoin, and the 10-year yields and the S&P all doing the similar kind of patterns at once. All at these key levels, are they going to go turn and go or retrace? I don't know, but I'm going to watch that one unfold with interest. Okay, ciao.